Now, if there was a major offensive going to occur, the troops would be waiting in those bunkers, scaling ladders, because remember, these trenches, before they were eroded like they are now, they were 7 feet deep. So scaling ladders would be nailed up to the wall of the trench. The troops would all be waiting in here. They'd be ordered to fix bayonets. When they go over the top, that was called 0 hour. So everyone, as the attack time approached, the officers and the sergeants would be looking at their watches, watching that second-hand tick. And the battlefield would be very noisy normally. There would be lots of artillery fire, and for weeks in some cases before an attack. At Vimy, the artillery bombardment lasted 3 weeks before the attack, firing over 1 million shells, weighing about 50,000 tons on the German position. So there's no surprise that an attack is coming. The only thing which is going to be a surprise is the exact moment that our troops go over the top. But the whole place would fall silent in the last couple of minutes because the gunners back in here are all laying their guns and getting ready to fire. Now, the first thing that the troops would notice, you can't hear the guns, you just see the flames, the flicker of the muzzle flashes along the horizon as the guns would start to fire, and they're firing 20 or 30 seconds before 0 hour. One British officer described it as looking at a huge Bunsen burner, or a Coleman stove in our terms, being lit as those tongues of flame lit the horizon. And then, of course, as soon as the Germans realize that we're firing, their guns over here start to open up, and so you have the effect of that flame circling the whole horizon. The next thing that the troops would notice is the first shell bursts to their front. You see the shell burst, then you hear the projectile going over, and then you hear the rounds detonating. Now, there is just then a roar that occurs because you have hundreds, or in fact in some cases thousands, of guns firing, thousands of explosives detonating, machine gun rounds being fired, and this all just becomes this one overpowering white noise in which all the shell bursts seem sort of disembodied from any actual sound. It would be like watching TV with the mute button pushed and just seeing images of shell bursts and then having your stereo on really loud. The Germans described it as drum fire, as if they were trapped in giant timpani drums with a bunch of crazy people just beating randomly on top of the drum. And so this is the most terrifying moment on the Western Front. These troops have been told repeatedly not to show themselves during daylight, and now they're about 20 seconds away from being ordered to go over the top and walk toward the German trenches. A lot of people soiled themselves, wet their pants, cried, prayed, and you know, I find that it's amazing people could do this once. There are lots of soldiers who take part in 6 or 8 major attacks, and the courage required of them when they know exactly what they're facing, it's almost unbelievable to me. But 0 hour inevitably does come. The second hands sweep past the time. The officers would blow whistles, and that's the signal to go over the top. So the men would climb the scaling ladders with their packs, and then they would advance across no man's land.